Brave Conversations.
Hello everybody, and as the 2025 Mark Awards open for entries, one of the jury members is, I think, throwing down an interesting and a bold challenge. Brave Group Chief Executive Musa Kalenga says innovation in the communications industry is essentially being watered down and reduced to buzzwords and safe ideas. I think he's got a point there. So instead of surface tweaks, he's now calling for work that rewrites the rules and solves problems, and wait for this one, that haven't even been mentioned yet. So he's joining me now to discuss why innovation isn't a department, it's now become a demand. So that's an interesting thesis, Musa.
I was going to say, is that for me?
You say that we are mistaking iteration for innovation. What's the difference?
Yeah. So iteration is, it's the Kaizen principle versus the ladder, the trampoline principle. Iteration means that we've been doing things quite well for the last 10 to 20 years, and we're quite comfortable getting marginally better. And while we're comfortable getting marginally better, the world is changing exponentially. And so iteration finds us in a scenario where the age-old adage of the world's moving faster than change inside advertising agencies is catching up to us. And so I don't think we can iterate anymore. I think there's an important bravery required in trying to experiment, but trying to have exponential changes in so doing.
Let me backpedal a little bit. Why do you think the industry, and by that I mean the agency side of the equation as well as the brand side, are maybe, I don't know if addicted is the right word, but let me use that though, if they're addicted to sort of safe ideas and quick wins, because in many ways that's almost the way in which it works. Why is there a fear to break out of that mold?
So I think we have to acknowledge that we're coming out of the post-COVID era, right? And so we've got short memories with some of these things sometimes, but they take a long time to work out of economy, out of systems, and ultimately out of our world. So there's been a huge shift during the COVID period to do things that work. We saw from an investment point of view, brands started shifting their money more to what we call bottom of the funnel metrics, which is driving value. And so the investment in the bigger thinking and the creative thinking was actually stifled for probably about a year and a half, 2 years. And I don't think we've fully returned to this appreciation of thinking in big ideas. And so being safe has become default because they've had to take a story, marketers have had to take a story to their boards that says that through my activities, I'm still able to make sure that the lights are on. And in most instances, that's not by doing things differently, it's by making sure that you do the thing that works, and that has always worked. And so the knock-on effect, the people that are receiving the briefs are the advertising agencies and marketing businesses. And although there's kind of green shoots of trying to do things differently, in most cases you're panel beaten back into saying, just do what has delivered and what has worked.
So you can't keep the lights on anymore. In fact, you've got to brighten the lights.
Well, you've got to change the light bulb in some instances.
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Two things. I think there's the gift of technology, and if you are open to experimentation, for very little cost, you can achieve quite a lot. The trick is being open to experimentation, which I think a lot of people, when they're looking at tried and tested, they may not be. The second thing, I think, is investing ahead of the curve, and typically that's also one of the things that agency businesses are not great at. Investing ahead of the curve means that you've got an appetite to put money sometimes where you don't see a direct investment in the short term, and where potentially you might figure something out in the long term. So I think that becomes important things to consider.
The problem is not being afraid to experiment.
Absolutely.
So how do you pull people across the Rubicon?
Two things I think that I try to do. Build something, right? Build something and show people what it looks like. It's the Noah's Ark strategy. You know the rains are coming, and you think you can see the rains are coming, but nobody else has that understanding. Mm-hmm. Build the ark. Show them what the ark can do, and when the rains do come, then they'll get on board. It's a very simple analogy, but it's an important one, because often when people can't see what you're talking about, it's very difficult for them to imagine something different. And so, being able to be bold about building things that you don't necessarily see today is also an art, and it's a science, because you have to time your investment correctly. And then lastly, when you are able to achieve that success, the degree to which you bring people on the journey is quite important. Because sometimes you build really amazing rocket ships and nobody wants to get on board, which often happens. So I think it's the balance of that, being able to build something that people can't see, but also, ensuring that they believe in it and take them on the journey.
You also make the point that it's about designing for people, not platforms. And maybe in this age of technology, we tend to forget that sometimes.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, it's difficult not to design for platforms, if we're to be honest, right? So it feels like the right thing to do off the bat because, as an example, when WhatsApp became a thing, you design for WhatsApp because it can allow you to solve communication problems. But the question is, who are the users of WhatsApp within your particular business that are going to be making use of the platform? So we get enamored with the technology because, that's what new shiny things do. They make us get excited. But the discipline, as you pointed it out, is to kind of take a step back and go, great, this wonderful new shiny thing is fantastic, but who are the beneficiaries, users, and probably customers that are going to be able to pay you for the use of the thing? So completely agree.
So let's thread it back to the Mark Awards.
Yeah.
You're sitting on the jury. Part of what you're going to do is to look at how you measure that in innovation. Am I right?
Yes, that's
So is it about disruption? Is it about impact? Is it a bit of both or something else?
So at this stage, I think it is more about disruption at this stage. And why I say that is the early stage technologies of Gen AI and all the rest of it are really just about how people are thinking about doing things differently. So my measure is going to be, let's think about how disruption is happening. I think to measure accurately for impact, you need a bit of time where people have experimented and have understood what's worked and what hasn't worked. I think it will be a really great submission that has solved for both innovation and impact. But my sense is that we're going to see a lot of innovation entries, and that's going to be the lens which I'm using. Certainly for those that are shooting the lights out that can demonstrate impact, I mean, all the better for them.
So final one then, if you were briefing a creative team right now,
Yeah.
what would you tell them to stop doing and what would you tell them to start doing?
You want my people to be angry at me? Bless their souls. So creatives, one thing I love about creatives is that their minds are just wonderful. But the big issue that they have is once they figured out their formula, it is very difficult to get them to shift from the formula. And the one thing I would get them to stop doing is to stop kind of attaching their own value to the formula that has always worked for them. And decoupling that and trying other formulas is a good thing. And in trying those other formulas, you might figure out something new and different. With all due respect to the creative process, right? So great songwrites, great playwrights, great everything have got a process. And what I find in our industry, it's really difficult to get people to decouple from that and to figure out how else they could work. And that aside, experiment. There's lots of great, interesting tools that are available now. There's lots of stuff that can make your life a lot easier. And so the labor of love that typically comes with the creative process, I think people still have a very big nostalgia about. And so when things happen a lot quicker or things get solved in a far more efficient way, I feel like there's sometimes this feeling that you're cheating or you're not doing it correctly or something is missing. Get over that. It's the age of technology, so it's there to make it better, quicker and faster.
Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure.
Brave Conversations.